Mwiriwe, amakuru yanyu, karibu iwacu hano mu rugo. Turabashimiye cyane ko mwitabiye ubutumire bwacu. Uyu munsi ni umunsi ukomeye kuri twebwe, njyewe na Janine n'abana, kubera yuko ni umunsi twizihiza isabukuru y'imyaka 10 tubanye nk'umuryango. Ni umuryango twungutsemo ibintu byinshi. Icya kabiri ni umunsi nanone twizihiza celebration cyangwa se kuba twanarashoboye kubona doctora PhD. Ni ikintu gikomeye kuri njyewe. Ngiye kwikora mu Cyongereza. Icya kabiri ndisegura na mpamvu yariyo yose yatuma nyikora mu Cyongereza uretse ko nabisabwe. Good evening, friends and family members. Thank you for having honored our invitation and feel welcome to our home here in Kicukiro. The major reason as to why we are here is to celebrate two major activities. One is 10 years marriage anniversary. The other major reason as to why we are meeting here is to celebrate an achievement, a PhD graduation I had on 14th December of 2018. Now, my PhD research was on Giringa reconciliation approach and sustainable peace in Kamonyi district. People think that a PhD is such a very wild, complicated thing. I want to make it simple here. The way to do a PhD research, you start with analyzing the global literature. You do global analysis of what is being written about the topic you are researching about. For this particular case, I was working on Giringa reconciliation approach. After doing a global literature research, you do continental literature research. What are these initiatives, approaches that are being done in Africa? I had to do a literature review or studying books, papers, reports on other reconciliation approach in South Africa, Liberia, Kenya, Uganda. For instance, when you talk of truth, justice and reconciliation in Kenya, how do they do it? And after doing that, you come to Rwanda, and that is a national review of literature. What do Rwandan literature say about this reconciliation approach? After that, you go to Kamonyi now. How do people in Kamonyi promote reconciliation? What is their way of doing Giringa? And that is how I did literature. So it is global, continental, national, then you go local. So this research had three objectives. One was to understand the nature of Giringa reconciliation approach in Rwanda. The other objective was to understand the contribution of Giringa reconciliation approach in post-genocide Rwanda. The third objective was to understand challenges and opportunities of Giringa reconciliation approach in Rwanda. But in any research, especially doctoral research, you are supposed to establish the reasons, the justifications why you are doing this research. There are basically two justifications. One was to generate evidence that would inform discourse and discussion about reconciliation in Rwanda. The other objective is to at least inform policy. So in this particular case, I wanted to understand how can Giringa reconciliation approach that is promoted in Kamonyi, how can it inform policy? As you might know, genocide against Tutsi happen all over Rwanda. But there are certain places that have specific, unique cases. Likewise, Kamonyi had a high level of genocide victimization and intensification. The mayor of Kamonyi district in 1994 resisted the implementation of genocide. So many people came from different other sectors and other communes and came and gathered in Kamonyi. So the research was done in 7 sectors of Kamonyi district. You can see them in the map. But the fundamental reason as to why we did this research in Kamonyi was that we wanted to understand how genocide survivors and the former genocide perpetrators are reconciling. For that reason, we interviewed 300 genocide survivors and the former genocide perpetrators. Still, we had 15 other people we interviewed. We had to ask Executive Secretary of Unity and Reconciliation Commission. We had to interview the Executive Director of CARSA. CARSA is a civil society organization based in Kamonyi District. So in terms of methodology, that is what we did. We applied those three methods, and it helped us generate data, information, and knowledge. We were amazed by the discovery that there are basically many strategies of achieving reconciliation around the cow. If friendship grew deeper, a friend would come and give you a cow, and that cow was called cow for friendship. And this is being done in Kamonyi today under Giringa reconciliation approach. Cow for peace, or Inga Yugiyonje in Kamonyi district today, means when, for instance, I harmed you or your relative, I have to come and give you a cow. And that cow symbolizes breaking continuity and escalation of violence and conflict between people. Now, the Executive Secretary of Unity and Reconciliation talks about three strategies of breaking continuity of violence in Rwanda. I mentioned three. One, he talks of giving a cow is one of the strategies of preventing continuity of violence. So in this post-genocide Giringa reconciliation approach, we only looked at two strategies. One was the cow-based Giringa approach. The other one is dowry. How does a cow promote reconciliation between people? Are there cases in Kamonyi, for instance, of intermarriage between genocide survivors and former genocide perpetrators? I need to tell you this. In Kamonyi district, 4%, actually total families from genocide survivors and former genocide perpetrators have intermarried. How can you believe this? Giringa is really working in the context of Giringa, in the context of Kamonyi. Because of Giringa, 83% of former genocide perpetrators and the genocide survivors confirm that the cow they have received has completely removed them versus us. Now they see themselves as Rwandans, Umunyarwanda, Ndumunyarwanda. On average, over 80% of these respondents, genocide survivors, confessed that they were able to forgive former genocide perpetrators because of this cow. They say that the process of taking care of the cow, feeding the cow, coming to milk, they talk of milk, how milk is so powerful in building relationships between genocide survivors and former genocide perpetrators in Kamonyi. So in terms of recommendation, we are saying that there is a need to replicate Kamonyi Giringa reconciliation model to other districts of Rwanda, because there are a lot of amazing stuff in Kamonyi district. It was simply a transformation of what was there. Some societies, actually many, actually in northern Uganda, have homegrown mechanisms of building and reconciling people. Unfortunately, we don't recognize these opportunities for peace.
Okay, you have adequate literature, but what are the gaps?
When I was doing testing of the tools, I learned many things that I didn't know, like calling people perpetrators, genocide perpetrators, was not applicable in this case. And the questionnaire was reviewed by Rwanda Governance Board, which gives certificates for research and research assistance, and they told me, you don't call these people genocide perpetrators. They are called former genocide perpetrators. Even some terminologies like genocide survivors in our language are a bit different. So I had to always refine-tune before I go to the field. That is how they do literature that leads to PhD.
Candidates who satisfy the Board of Examiners of the School of Disaster Management and Humanitarian Assistance and the University Senate for the conferment of the respective Doctor of Philosophy degrees of Masinde Mulilo University of Science and Technology. Doctor of Philosophy in Peace and Conflict Studies, Mwamvanesa Willy Mchenzi.
Mgeni, sherehe hii inapeperushwa moja kwa moja kupitia runinga ya NTV. Hivi sasa tunavyozungumza.
When it comes to doing research in peace and conflict studies leading to a PhD, it involves a lot of investment. I really need to express my gratitude, my heartfelt appreciation to my wife, Janine Singer, for having provided a family support environment. Without that, I would not have achieved this PhD. My wife, my children contributed. My relatives, they really provided required resources right from childhood, and looking back, it was not easy. How would I have dreamt of a PhD when I was a refugee, without a status, without rights, without resources? It was a cocktail of many factors that could not have enabled me achieve this. The other person to thank, of course, friends who really encouraged me. I need to thank Voningoma, Gakuru, Betty, who really stood with me and told me, you must do it, and I need to confess I have done it. I really need to thank the university for having provided me an enabling environment for doing this research. Lastly, I need to express my gratitude to Professor Iteyo. Thank you very much for having been my supervisor. You are such a parent. I said this, I repeat it. Supervision in terms of PhD supervision and guidance and advisory, it calls for parental attitude and parental character. I thank you everybody for this. Thank you, God bless you.